What's going on, everybody? Hope you're all having a fantastic day today. Now, ladies and gentlemen, the other day I saw a post over on Reddit, and honestly, it really made me think about how special Arc Raiders is going to be, and the reason why I think the replayability of that game is going to be top notch. And to be truthful with you guys, I know a lot of people don't really care for extraction shooters, and it's still a pretty niche genre. Well, not completely niche, because let's be honest here, there's a lot of extraction shooters that are popular. But compared to other types of games, it hasn't really been picked up yet, you know? But Arc Raiders is going to change that for a lot of people, especially the casuals. But of course, ladies and gentlemen, before we go and dive deep, if you guys are interested in more content like this, don't forget to subscribe and hit that bell. Post twice here, once at 8 a.m. and the second time at 5 p.m. Eastern Time. Pretty much all different types of variety. FPS games, third-person shooter games, shoot. I'm even branching out and discussing Skate. I'll probably be talking about GTA, all of the above. So of course, if you guys are interested, subscribe and hit that bell. And last but not least, I do stream Monday through Saturday over on Twitch, starting at 1 p.m. Eastern Time. Just like I said with the YouTube videos, I do all different types of variety on there as well. So if you guys are interested, go link that channel down in the description of this video. Alright, so ladies and gentlemen, first and foremost, I do want to apologize for the background footage. I haven't gotten any gameplay of the overall Arc Raiders experience, but you best believe once the stress test begins, I am going to be just absolutely grinding the heck out of that game. I have plenty of footage for you guys moving forward into the future until the game officially launches, and we'll keep things nice and fresh. But for the time being, this is going to be the official, pre-order trailer for Arc Raiders. But with that being said, I actually got inspiration for this video from a post over on Reddit by Curious South saying, "What are your thoughts on teaming up, trading, or just not killing your fellow raiders? I've been wondering what most of the community's thoughts on mutilism rather than eradication of other players is, so I'm asking, would you be open to trading, to teaming up, or just not shooting on sight if you're not doing the other two?" And then they went ahead and edited the post after, seeing all the comments saying, "After reading all the responses, it seems mixed, but leaning towards kill on sight. I think I'll wait for a few months and see what this community turns into." Now, I'll say this right here, right now, Curious South. I would not wait a few months. Just get the game. Just play it. You can't really go based off of what a comment section is going to tell you. And the majority of the people who are in a Reddit thread are the most hardcore of players. So I would say 9 times out of 10 of them are prepared to shoot on sight. Because if you really think about it, that's what the majority of extraction shooters train you to go ahead and do. There's not many benefits to teaming up with other players, and usually you get backstabbed. There's not much reward for going back with anybody else. You might as well just take them out and take all of their loot. But in Arc Raiders, it's a completely different story. And that's why I truly think that this game is going to dominate, absolutely dominate the extraction shooter scene. And bring in a lot of casuals to see what, again, this genre is all about here. The amount of variety from, match-to-match gameplay is absolutely insane. And that will help the replayability factor tremendously. I want you guys to remember, Arc Raiders didn't start off as an extraction shooter. This game started off as a PvE game, meaning that it was heavily team-oriented, meaning there was absolutely no PvP whatsoever. You weren't shooting at other individuals. You were all working together for a common goal of taking out the AI. So, with that in mind, this game's foundation was built up around that aspect, and then shifted into an extraction shooter that implemented PvP. Now, yes, I will say, from the looks of it and from the reactions of a lot of people, the PvP is outstanding, the gunplay is very solid, and it feels very rewarding to go ahead and get into combat with other players. But that's a very crucial point of having a PvP game, right? If you don't enjoy the actual combat versing other players, then it's bad, right? It's not going to be good. So it's crucial that that's important, but it's not the end-all be-all of the game, because that's not what it started off as. So you will see tons of other PvE elements that are sprinkled throughout the rest of the game that will kind of make you want to work with one another, actually combine forces to meet a common goal. Whereas in the other extraction shooters, everybody's kind of doing their own thing, Everybody picks the mission that they have to do, they go in, if they see an enemy, they want to kill them because they want some extra loot so they can sell it afterwards, and then they get the heck out of there. But in Arc Raiders, yeah, it's the same thing, you can go in there, we all, pick our own missions we want to complete, we're all doing different things when we load into the map. Yeah, you might want to go ahead and get some PvP action because you want someone else's loot. But, as I stated before, there's other things in the world going on that will force you guys to kind of work together. What happens when you are getting into a PvP engagement and a massive AI Arc robot comes on through and starts combating both of you guys? Then everybody has to think, what are we doing now? Are we going to separate and, just not do PvP at all, get away and run for our lives? Are we going to actually communicate, work together for a common goal of taking down the Arc robot? the options are endless. You don't do that in other extraction shooters, really. Again, it's basically everybody for themselves. You go in by yourself or you go in with a squad. And if you see other opponents, you're taking them out. And the AI in the majority of these, extraction shooters are not really that crazy. Yeah, they can get some lucky shots on you and take you out pretty quickly, with luck, of course. But 9 times out of 10, it's just a head-tapping simulator. If you look at any extraction shooter out there, well, maybe not, some of them like Hunt Showdown, stuff like that, but I don't know. I never really considered Hunt Showdown like a traditional extraction shooter, more of a spin-off of what an extraction shooter is. But when I think of stuff like Arena Breakout or Escape from Tarkov, stuff like that, when it comes to the AI, who cares, right? You just walk around, you put one bullet to the head, and you keep moving on with your day. In Arc Raiders, that is not the case whatsoever. You are not doing that when it comes to the AI robots. You know what I'm saying? Once one detects you, a swarm of them are going to come on through. And as I stated before, you could tell Arc Raiders was indeed a PvE game at first. It wasn't an extraction shooter game at first because the AI is stupidly intelligent, and they want to absolutely demolish every single person who enters that map. So a lot of the time, when these AI come on through, like I said, you're either going to work together or you're going to get the heck out of there. But it really does encourage team play. When these AI come rolling on in, you feel the PvE aspect. You feel the core of what this game was built off of. When everybody's, joining forces. Like, for example, the Queen. You know what I'm saying? Now, obviously, you can go ahead and avoid the Queen, and you can, work with whatever you want to do with the map. And that's what I was initially talking about. If some other basic AI come on through, you'll still have to work together and talk to one another. But if you see a Queen, it's very unlikely that you're going to be able to take that thing out by yourself or, even with your group of 3. You're going to need a lot of other teams to actually work with you, which means you're going to have to hop on the mic, try to communicate with people, work with them, and actually get stuff rolling. Now, the fun part of extraction shooters is that's not always guaranteed. You can go talk to someone. They say that they will work with you. You turn around, they shoot you in the back of the head. It is what it is. That's what extraction shooters are all about, man. You truly see the typical human nature and tendencies all come out when you're playing the extraction shooter. But that's the fun of it, You can't get angry when people play PvP. And that's what I don't want the person who made that post to really think, You can't get salty when people do that. He's looking at the comment section of Reddit where that's where the majority of people are going to be doing. But you have to understand, that's not going to be how it unfolds every single time. And that's why Arc Raiders is going to be so unique and interesting. And it's going to really grasp a lot of players out there, including the casuals, because the experience is always going to shift. In other extraction shooters, as I stated, it's always shoot on sight, which instantly basically pushes away a lot of players because they want to come in, they want to have those different interactions. But when over half your interactions lead to PvP, it just takes away from the variety. It turns into a PvP game. But Arc Raiders is truly a PvPvE game. It truly is. You know what I'm saying? There are multiple moments where you will engage with others, and there's multiple moments where you'll work together. And like I was saying with the Queen, you'll need a lot of squads. And I've seen people actually come together. They talk to random squads out there and say, yo, we want to take down the Queen. You want to join? And you'll see like freaking 10 plus people rolling on up to the Queen, trying to take it out, joining forces, all chaos. It's epic, but that adds so much variety to the overall gameplay. And again, replayability with having a fresh type of raid every single time you go into the experience. And also on top of this, I know not everybody's going to agree with me here, but the game being third person also makes it a lot more casual than other FPS shooters. FPS games naturally attract the sweatiest of the sweats compared to third person shooters, where a lot of sweaty players don't really care for them as much because of the third person peeking angles. It takes away some of that competitive edge to the game. You know what I'm saying? So a lot of people play these titles differently. And when you can actually see one another around, certain engagements and certain walls, that encourages to use your mic more compared to it being a first person shooter. If you see someone, they can't third person, peek that angle. So, an aggressive player, someone who likes PvP a lot, is going to push them every single time. You know what I'm saying? They're going to take that to their advantage. They know they're a very skilled player. Their shot's good. So they're going to go ahead and, actually navigate the map to push that opponent. But in third person, shooter games, when someone's holding an angle like that and they are, it makes it harder for you to push up on them. And they're looking at you saying, okay, I don't know how I should play this. If you're not pushing up on them, then are they going to push up on you? And as I stated a lot of the time, This will encourage players to actually open up their mics and talk, communicate, especially if they have loot that they want and, they don't want to die and they don't want to sit there forever. You will engage with one another. As I stated, compared to a first-person shooter game where you're not engaged, the only engagement that's going to be happening is someone shooting, one another there. Someone's going to die in that scenario. Whereas in a third-person shooter game, I know not everybody's going to agree, but trust me, I've seen it many times before. It encourages players to just want to interact with one another a bit more frequently because you are naturally at a disadvantage. And knowing that you're naturally at a disadvantage will encourage you to use other tactics to actually work around situations. And guys, I mean, it's 1,000 other reasons why this is a very, casual extraction shooter. I mean, being able to have, good free loadouts. Yeah, you heard that correctly. You don't have to spawn in with your great loot. You can go in with a constant flow of free loadouts. And these free loadouts are not that bad. They're not the best, of course, but they'll get the job done, which will take the tension off of people's shoulders. Because if people go in with their best loot, that also encourages them to shoot on sight, right? When you're going in with decked out gear, you don't want to lose that gear. So, anybody, you don't care if someone's going to be friendly. You don't care if someone says, hey, how you doing? You want to, team up? You're going to shoot them. You're not trusting anybody. But with, having the freedom of loot like that and being able to bring in stuff for free that's actually decent, that will take, again, some tension off. And it will encourage players to actually talk to one another, interact, and, want to team up. Because if you do get killed, who cares? Yeah, you lose the loot that you found within the match, which can be kind of annoying, but your best gear is not going anywhere, which will, again, take down some of the tension. And, even when it comes down to the down system in this game, if you're downed, you can crawl to the extraction zone and still tap the extraction button to get out of the actual arena, which is awesome. But this adds a little bit more leniency when it comes to seeing other people in an extraction zone, Because in other extraction shooters, if you go to the extraction zone and, you get into some combat, you're not getting out of there alive. If you get tapped, you're getting tapped. You're dying. You're losing everything. You know what I'm saying? And a lot of people don't want to test that. So if they see someone while they're trying to extract, they're not going to ask, hey, are you friendly? They're shooting on sight. Whereas in Arc Raiders, as I stated, you can go down and you can still extract with your stuff. I'll tell you what, for me personally, that's all I'm going to be doing, If I find people who want to be, PvP-ish in the actual map itself, yeah, I'll probably, engage and try to take them out. But if I see someone extracting and I don't trust them, I will gladly shoot them down, but I won't kill them. What am I going to gain? If I already have full pockets, a full backpack, I'm good to go. I'm not going to take their stuff. I just want to guarantee that they're not going to kill me. You know what I'm saying? And the best part about it is that I can still down them. They don't have to lose their stuff, and we can both extract safely. Shoot, even when I was watching some of the playtest server, gameplay, people would bring in medkits, and if they down someone in the middle of a match, let's say it's not an extraction, right? Let's say you're not extracting just yet. You're in the middle of the match, everybody's just beginning, and you down an opponent. First and foremost, both of you guys can open up your mics, so the person who's down can talk, and then you can talk to them. And on top of that, if you do have a medkit, you can heal them. So if you don't want to take them out, if they are friendly, it was never a beef to begin with, maybe it was an accident or something like that, you can literally revive the enemy and tell them, hey, you know what? You can either go about your own business, leave them, they can go away, or they can tag along and join you for the journey. Again, like I said, the possibilities within this game are absolutely endless. I'm telling you, people are worried about the PvP in this game. They're worried about the variety, and that's just going to boil down to everybody just shooting on sight. But you have to trust the process of Arc Raiders. It's not going to end up that way. This is hands down the most casual extraction shooter you could ever play that is out on the market. And because of that, it will encourage players to take different approaches, which is why I think it will dominate the scene, because there's so many ways of going about playing the game. It doesn't just boil down to your typical extraction shooter of shooting on sight, and it starts off as, an extraction shooter where everybody is being stealthy and they don't want to die, and then literally the end game is just everybody shooting everyone, It's a little bit of a different story. Yeah, the end game can lead to that when people are starting to get all their best loot, and they will just go in PvP, but as I stated, there's so many other things, and the content line for this game is going to be massive, with more AI arc coming on in the future, probably more events going on. I guarantee they'll probably have massive events when it comes down to taking out the biggest arc, robots. It's going to be a lot of stuff going on here, and that is what's really exciting me the most. But, ladies and gentlemen, I'm not going to ramble your guys' ears off anymore. I just wanted to share my opinions on why I think that this game is going to be stuffed with variety and stuffed with multiple different ways that you can go about playing it. But I would love to hear what you guys have to say about this down in the comment section below. Do you agree? Do you think that, I'm correct with some of these statements, or do you think I'm wrong? And again, this game will indeed boil down to just strictly PvP and everybody shooting on sight. But, ladies and gentlemen, as always, if you enjoyed today's video, leave a like. If you hate it, leave a dislike. Don't forget to subscribe and hit that bell. Post twice here. Once at 8 a.m. Eastern Time and a second time at 5 5 p.m. Eastern Time. So, of course, if you guys are interested, subscribing to that bell. And last but not least, I do go ahead and stream Monday through Saturday over on Twitch starting at 1 p.m. Eastern Time. If you guys are interested in any of that content, you can find a link to that channel down in the description of this video. But as always, thanks for tuning in. I'll see you all next one. Peace out.